right, let's talk about the characteristics of a bureaucracy. Now, there are 4 characteristics, and they all come from German sociologist Max Weber. Okay? Now, Weber, if you wanted to pronounce it in German, right? So, the first one is that a bureaucracy needs to be hierarchical. Okay? That there's a hierarchy. Now, what we want to do is, can we see these characteristics in our pyramid, in our graphic here? And I can definitely see a hierarchy, right? That's the reason that I structure it as a pyramid. I see that the most important person, the most powerful person is at the pinnacle of the pyramid, POTUS, the President of the United States. And the way a hierarchy works is from the bottom up, I know who my supervisor is, I know who my boss is, and the orders come from the top of the pyramid. And if I'm lower on the pyramid, my job is to follow those orders, okay? Now in reverse, hierarchy is gonna work like this. We know that in the civil service, I advance up the hierarchy based on merit, based on skill, based on my education, okay? I can proceed up the hierarchy and attain more and more authority to give orders that those below me have to follow, okay? That's hierarchy. Another characteristic of an effective bureaucracy is specialization. So I can achieve this effectiveness by having tasks that are divided and handled by expert and professionals that are specialized in that area. Now, can I see specialization in my graphic? And I can. So when I look at the executive departments and I see how there's just a little slice here, I can see that they're specialized. So the executive departments themselves have specialization. I have the Department of Health and Human Services. They're specialized in providing those services that deal with health and human services. I have a Department of Defense, right? That is specialized in defending the United States from military endeavors, right? Department of Treasury, it's specialized. Department of Education, it's specialized. Now, even within the department, I can further use specialization to create an effective bureaucracy. And we see that in the Department of Health and Human Services. I have the Food and Drug Administration. So they're specialized in making sure that the food that we eat in this country is safe and that the drugs that we use in this country are safe. I have the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that develop, basically, help keep us safe from pandemic diseases, which we've seen was very important in this particular year. So specialization is another characteristic of a bureaucracy that can be clearly seen in the diagram of the pyramid. A third characteristic of an effective bureaucracy is that it's merit-based. And now we've talked about this before, but let's go back in time here. It was the Pendleton Act that actually created the civil service and ensured that if you work on this part of the pyramid, the base, you're going to get that job based on merit, based on skill, talent, and education, and your score on the civil service exam. We also know that you're going to advance through the hierarchy of the bureaucracy based on those qualities as well. That's why the Pendleton Act is so important, okay? So that because it ensures that this part of the pyramid is merit-based. The fourth characteristic of an effective bureaucracy is that it operates using explicit rules. So every agency, every department creates rules that every individual, every employee has to follow in, we say, exercising their tasks, their job. Okay, now this is going to create some very positive things. It's going to make sure that all the experience that we have when we interact with the bureaucracy is the same. So there's a standardization. That's a positive when there's explicit rules. And there's a predictability in the experience that I know that I'm going to be treated the same as anybody else that goes and talks to the IRS, right? So predictability and standardization are positives of explicit rules. There are some actual drawbacks, some negatives to having a system that operates using explicit rules as well. for, like, if I'm a creative thinker, if I want to tailor my solution to the person's individual needs, I can't do that. I have to follow the rules. So it limits individuality, it limits creativity in the solutions. I'm bound by the rules. One size fits all is pretty much the answer to any interaction with the bureaucracy. Now, we can have what we say excessive explicit rules. When we get to a point where there's all these hoops we have to jump through because the rules demand that, we call that red tape. Okay, now red tape is basically a negative connotation of the characteristic of explicit rules. Another negative thing that kind of can emerge, well, it's negative and a positive, is accountability. Is that with explicit rules, if there is a bureaucratic employee that isn't following the rules, it makes it very easy to hold them accountable and fire them. You're not doing your job. Your job says you have to do it this way. Boom, 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 boom. And if you don't follow the rules, we can hold them accountable. Accountability can be a negative because of the hierarchical aspect of the pyramid. So if I'm a member of the bureaucracy and you don't like how I'm doing it because I'm following the rules, I just bump you up to my supervisor. Well, why don't you take your complaint to my supervisor? If my supervisor's following the rules, they can always bump you up to the next level and say, why don't you take it to my supervisor? So as long as I'm following the rules, there's no individual accountability for me. I can just bump you up the pyramid to the next level and the next level, okay? I keep passing the buck, so to say. All right, so explicit rules has some positive aspects to it and has some negative aspects to it. Now again, according to German sociologist Max Weber, who came up with these are the 4 characteristics that would describe an effective bureaucracy. And the more you can attain these characteristics, the more you can achieve a concept called neutral competency. That not only are your bureaucrats going to be competent, but they're going to exercise their job and their duties neutrally. And you might ask the question, neutral how? So we're talking neutral ideologically. That when you interact with the pyramid, when you interact with the bureaucracy, you're not going to be treated differently because you're liberal or conservative. And it also should be neutral politically. That you're not going to be treated differently whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or a member of a different political party. It should also be neutral socially, that you're not going to be treated differently because you're a man, a woman, or you're of a particular race, right? Okay, neutral competency is the goal of those 4 characteristics. We want our bureaucracy to be neutral yet competent, okay? Now, another law that you should be familiar with is the Hatch Act, which is also trying to help achieve that neutrality. Right? So the Hatch Act prevents anybody from right here, this part of the pyramid, from being overtly political. Now, you still get to vote, you can still express political opinions, but you shouldn't do so publicly. So like if I'm a member of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I probably shouldn't get up and give a speech and endorse a candidate. Okay, that's going to violate that neutrality component. The Hatch Act also prevents people from up here pressuring me to be non-neutral. Okay, so like people up here might want me to, basically, give advantages to people of certain political parties, and the Hatch Act is my safety net. It's my out saying I can't do that. That's against the law. My job is to be neutral yet competent. So neutral competency is the goal of the 4 characteristics. All right, talk to you later.